I think we can get started. Hello, everyone. My name is Mehmet Küçükgöz. I'm a program manager in media platform team in Windows. This is the team that has been designing the media APIs and the infrastructure for you in Windows 8 for your Metro-style apps. Before joining Microsoft, I was a graduate student at University of Washington, Electrical Engineering Department, working mostly on multimedia-related technologies. Back then, I was really fascinated with the wonderful world of video codec design. After school, I joined Microsoft full-time, and here I am after 7 years. In Windows 8, I specifically worked on the capture APIs, which allow your apps access the camera and the mic. Now, let me introduce my colleague, KZ, who's going to be my co-presenter today.
Hi, everyone. I'm a program manager on the Windows team that has been designing Metro-style user experiences for cameras over the last 2 years. And before joining Microsoft, I was a graduate student at Stanford University. I was also studying electrical engineering like Mehmet. And then somewhere along the way, the lure of designing software for hundreds and millions of users brought me to Microsoft. And here I am a few years down the road.
So our session title today is Capturing Personal Photos, Video, and Audio in Metro-style Apps. Let's take a quick look at the agenda. We will start with a quick introduction to the capture namespace, share a couple of tips and tricks that will get you going with your first Metro-style app utilizing these devices. Then we will dive into the details of the capture API space and share some samples with you. Then we will touch on how to build rich experiences using our extensions in our APIs. Along the way, we will be doing a couple of demos, and then we will deconstruct those demos and look at some code samples too. And if you leave the session being really inspired to write great Metro-style apps, utilizing the camera and the mic, I'll be a happy man on the flight back to Seattle. Now, if you're sitting here and listening to this session, I know that you have a pretty good idea why it's great to incorporate camera and mic in your apps. But let me share my take on that very quickly. Best-selling apps are those who are really able to engage end user and lead them to spend more time in the app. Sure, they help us do things better and faster, but most importantly, they link our real world, which is what we see, what we hear, to the digital world. If you think about it, in a way, these devices allow our apps to have this gateway to the real world. They are the eyes and the ears of the apps. Capturing a moment of life with an audio, picture, or video simply for the sake of storing them as memories or using them in other interesting ways is really intriguing and engaging. We designed the capture APIs for you with simplicity in mind. You will see that with only a couple of lines of code, you will be able to get the camera feed on the screen, take a picture, record a video. But at the same time, we knew that flexibility and extensibility are super important to you too, because you want to enable those amazing scenarios for your customers and differentiate your apps from others. You will see that we're confident that you're going to be able to use our APIs to deliver those rich experiences, fully utilizing the potential of these devices that are readily available in all form factors and systems nowadays. Now, let's see an example of such an app.
I'm going to switch over to our demo machine. So here we are at the Windows start screen. I'm going to launch this app called Measure It. And it was an app that was written by some of our college interns over the summer. And this app has a cool concept. And what it is that you can import a picture into this app, and then you specify a known dimension. So in the stock picture, you can see there's that line is 4 feet. And once you do that, then you can measure anything else in that app, in that picture. So if I draw a rectangle here around this table, actually I got the rectangle messed up, so let me try again. Yeah, so if I try drawing a rectangle here, it's going to specify and tell me that this table is like 4 feet wide and 2.5 feet tall or something like that. So you can imagine that this app would be interesting in home decoration type of scenarios or something of that order. But it can become a lot more interesting if it had the ability to incorporate a live picture versus just importing picture. And the app has done exactly that. So there's a button here that says Take Photo. And when I press that, it launches into this Windows API. So this is Windows user experience that we're going to talk about in detail a little bit later. But you can imagine that you can take a picture here, and then this picture goes back into the app. So we're going to take a picture of the room, but since there are 2 bright lights here, you're going to have some fun on my expense today. So let me take a picture of myself, and I can specify how long my nose is. And Mehmet and I were having a discussion about it earlier, and he thinks it's 2 inches, but I don't think that, so I'm going to put it 1.25. And once I've done that, I can draw a rectangle, for example, around my face, and it tells that it's like, 4.5 inches wide and 5 inches tall or something like that. So the app becomes a lot more interesting when you are able to incorporate a picture that you're just taking into it. And now let's see how you can do that into one of your apps.
Now, before we get into the details, let's take a quick look at the media namespace. Using our APIs in the media namespace, you can easily play a video file or audio file with only a couple of lines of code, of course. But you can also convert your music or video from one format to another, or change the resolution that way using our transcode APIs under the media namespace. Or you can choose to stream these media to large screen TVs to enjoy it in a more appropriate form factor. Or you can choose to protect these files with the protection APIs that we have in the media namespace. Capture is part of the media namespace, and that's what we were going to concentrate today. Under the capture namespace, we have the camera capture UI and the media capture APIs you could be choosing depending on your scenario that you're going after. The camera capture UI is this built-in UX and predefined workflow that is defined by the operating system for you that you could use. If the experience that you're going after as a developer is very similar to picking a file from the file system and use it after in your application, this would be a great control to use. So think of the example of, you wrote an app like the Measure It app, and you're working with a picture. But you're thinking, wouldn't it be awesome if I allow the user to be able to take a picture right here at this moment so that they don't need to get out of the context of my app and take a picture through another app and then having to come back to my app again. In those cases, camera capture UI would be great. Media capture API, in contrast, allows you to customize the user experience fully and the workflow. So if you have a need for such a tight control, and in a way, if you want to control every pixel on the screen, media capture APIs are there for you. Now, let's get into the details of the camera capture UI a little bit more. But let's see another scenario that uses the camera capture UI first.
So let's see our second demo of the session. Once it switches, so here I am back on the Windows Start screen, and I'm going to go into the Control Panel app, and I'm going to try and personalize this system with a user tile or an account picture. So this button that says Webcam here that launches into the same API that we saw earlier, and here I am, and you can see me, of course. And this API has this whole user experience built in, so you can see that there are a couple of affordances here. There's an ability to switch cameras. So for example, I can switch to the built-in camera, or I can switch back to this camera that is attached over here. I can turn on a timer or turn it off so that a user has some time to kind of set themselves up before the picture is taken. There's a settings experience associated here as well. And then there's a video possibility as well if you want to record a video. So let's start with the photo experience. So if I take a photo here, you would see that there's this rectangle, a crop rectangle on top of this photo, and it's actually square in aspect ratio. And that is because when the control panel app calls this API, it tells the API to block the aspect ratio as 1:1. And hence, if I try, I can make the rectangle smaller, but I can't actually try to disturb the aspect ratio. It would stay at 1:1. So if I choose this weird picture of mine, I can accept it back, and it comes back here. So all the while you were seeing that UX, or this UX, the control panel app was running in the background. And as soon as I accept the picture here, it goes back to the app that was running and that called into this API. So if I try recording a video here at this point, and actually this is a pretty cool feature in Windows that instead of having just a static account picture, you can have a video that represents you. So you see that the resolution has dropped a little bit here. And that is because the user tile needs to roam around. And so that's why when the control panel app calls this API, it puts a maximum cap on the size of the photo, or the video in this case. And that's why the API is dropping the resolution to account for that. So if I start recording a video here, and you can have some more fun on my expense. And so I'm going to make some movements so you can see that in the video later. So this is the video review page where a user gets a chance to accept the video if they like it. And they can also trim the video to choose a subset of it. So these two trim markers that you are seeing here, these are what they can use to trim the video. And notice another thing here that these trim markers are predefined to a certain length. And what's happening is that, again, when the control panel app calls this API, it's telling the API that the video cannot be longer than 5 seconds, the output video. So I can reduce the length of the video, but I cannot make it longer than 5 seconds, and the trim markers move together to enforce that. So if I select yes, it trims the video, and now you can see me moving in the user tile. So all of this functionality that you've seen so far, that's all built into this API, and there are little customizations that you can do with this API call. But in the end, you don't have to worry about the user experience at all or the user workflow. It all gets taken care of by this API. And now we'll see how you can incorporate this sort of user experience into your apps.
So the first thing you would need to do is declare the fact that you're going to use the camera and the mic in the system. This is important because these devices are sensitive devices, and Metro-style apps are required to declare the capabilities. And the way you do that is very easy. You go to the app manifest, and under the capabilities section, specify these two devices. And once you do that, your app will have access to these devices. So we're ready to take a picture. A little bit of HTML code. In the third line that I have here, I have an image tag. This is the UI element that's going to hold the picture after it's taken, right? This is the one that's going to display it on the screen after my app gets the picture back. And then you're ready to take the picture. The first thing you're going to do is new up the camera capture UI object, create an object, and then call capture file async on that object. Note the parameter here is camera capture UI.mode.photo, which indicates my UX that I'm interested in a photo and photo only. Once the picture is taken by the user, and the user would go through all the things that we've seen earlier, all we need to do is create a URL out of the captured item and then update the source of the image tag, and we are good to go. Doing all these with a video is actually very similar. Instead of an image tag, now I have a video tag, of course, because I'm going to play the video. New up the camera capture UI and call the camera file async. This time, with the video parameter, and you could have specified video or photo, in which case the user will have the option to return you a photo or a video. And then once the video is recorded, again, create the URL out of the capture item and then update the source of the video tag. Doing all of these things with C# and XAML is not any harder, if not easier. All you would do, again, are the same steps. Create the camera capture UI. Now, one thing I did different here, though, is I specified a format. Now, if you don't specify a format, in this case I specified WMV, the default settings for the camera capture UI is MP4. So if you don't specify anything, it will be an MP4 file. Then call the camera, the capture file async with the video mode, wait for that process to complete, and then once you get the captured item, update the media element that's going to play the video. Now, what else can you do using the camera capture UI? And we've seen some of these things, but I want to recap those. You can specify an upper limit to what the user would take as a photo or a video. Now, you can think how this would be really important in cases, for example, when you want to transfer these files over the internet. You don't want large file sizes, potentially, in which case you can specify this upper limit quality. Along the same lines, you might prefer to have a duration limit on the video. And we've seen this in the account video, too. You call that before the camera capture UI is called, and that way you are guaranteed to get the maximum size to be right. Again, you can also specify a fixed aspect ratio for the picture, and the UX will make sure that that happens. There are a couple of things that users will get for free through the UX that, as a developer, you wouldn't have to do anything about because it's part of the UX. For example, we also saw this earlier. Users can cycle through all the cameras in the system. There could be a front camera, back camera, and attached camera, and choose the right one that they'd like to use. They can also turn on a timer. They can also adjust the camera settings, so they can change the brightness, contrast, default settings that are available to all cameras through our UI. Now, one interesting thing here is that if the IHV of that camera had chosen to do so, there could be a customized experience, customized settings for those cameras too. In which case, again, as a developer, you wouldn't have to do anything, and it will be available through the UI. Now, let's do a quick recap. Under the capture namespace, we have the camera capture UI and the media capture APIs. The camera capture UI has this built-in camera control and predefined workflow, and the experience is similar to picking photos from the file system as a developer to you. Media capture API, on the other hand, will allow you to customize the user experience, and in a way, you get to control every pixel on the screen. So let's learn more about the media capture APIs now, but as before we do that, let's see another demo.
OK, so we're back at the Windows Start screen, and I'm going to launch into this app that was written over the last few days. It's a sample app, and it's a simulation of a digital camera. And the point that we're trying to make is that in this case, unlike before, where there was a defined user experience around the preview coming from the camera, this app has an experience that it wants to control. And whatever this experience is, it controls every pixel, and it's regulating that. So in this case, if I start the stream, you can see that the stream is in the preview area of the camera, where a regular digital camera previews the live stream. And this entire experience is totally controlled by the app, but they are still able to incorporate the camera feed, and they are able to incorporate it in the way that they want to. And it implements all of the functionality that we have sort of seen before. So for example, if I click here, it takes a picture, freezes it for 2 seconds, then that picture disappears. I can switch to the video mode, and I can record a video, and then I can make some funny faces, or well, at least some movements, not funny faces, so that you know that the video is moving. And I can press here to stop recording. I can switch back, take another picture, for example. And the app lets me browse them, for example, if I want to. So I'm in view mode, so I'm seeing the last picture that I took. If I roll back, this is the video that was recorded. So you can see me moving in the video. And that was the picture that was taken before that. So all of this functionality is available through media capture APIs, which allow you to take pictures, take videos, get preview from the camera. But in this case, the user experience is all yours, and whatever you want to do with the user experience, you control it. And now let's see how you can incorporate this sort of functionality into your app if you so desire.
So let's take a quick look at the UI and the UX that this app provided. At the back of everything, there is this rear view of all the digital camera as an image. So I'm holding that in an image tag. Then around the area where there was the viewfinder, I have a video tag. I have a couple of UI elements. The first one is a video tag that is playing the video after it's recorded. I have an image tag that is holding and showing the images after I've taken them. But I also have another video tag that is showing the camera feed. So when I first launch the application and it starts showing the camera feed, the image tag that is going to show the picture and the video tag that's going to show the recorded video are all hidden, and only the camera feed is visible. And once I switch modes to review the pictures and the videos that I've taken so far, I bring the image tag to the front or the video tag to the front so that the user can see the recorded pictures and the videos. And obviously, I have some buttons for left, right, and mode changes. Now that I have my UI defined, how do I get the preview going? New up the media capture and create an object out of it, and then call initialize on that object. Now, what this does is, in our infrastructure, media infrastructure, we talk to the camera, we do all the initializations that you don't have to worry about. We do all of those for you, and once that call is complete, you are ready to, again, create a URL out of the media capture object, and then update the source of the preview. And then if you call play on it, it will start showing the preview. Doing all of these with a capture element is, again, very easy. This time I have a capture element in XAML, and new up the media capture object again, and call the same function, initialize. Once that's completed, update the source of the capture element, and then you are ready to call start preview to get the feed going again. Taking a picture, couple of steps. The first thing you'd like to do is specify where you're going to hold and where you're going to save the picture. In this case, I've chosen to save it in the pictures library with the name photo.jpg. And then specify a couple of parameters like, I want JPEG, I want this width and this height. And then once you're also done that, you are ready to call the capture photo. And when the photo is taken, you're ready to update the image tag's source as before. Doing a video record, similar steps. I think this time I created an encoding profile first, and I chose WMV as an output format. And you can specify a quality or a resolution level too. I did QVGA. And then, again, I need to save it somewhere. So video library and video.wmv is my file's name. Now you're ready to call start record, and you're good to go. If you want to do audio only, very similar steps. Instead of a WMV this time, I did M4A with a quality level of medium for audio. And I'm going to save it in the music library. And then, again, make my call to start the capture. Now, what else can you do using the media capture APIs? The system, again, might have multiple cameras, and you might have a specific need to use the front camera or the back camera. Using the device enumeration APIs, programmatically, you can choose the very exact camera that you're interested in, and then you can pass this along to the media capture APIs for it to use. If you don't do this, we will be using the default camera and the mic in the system. We support 2 output video formats, MP4 and WMV, and 3 output audio formats, M4A, MP3, and WMA. So you could choose any of these, and additional formats are possible through extensions, which we will be talking about soon. You also have the ability to really tightly control the encoder settings on the output file, or if you're doing a real-time communication scenarios, for example, you can change the encoder settings according to your need too. Media capture APIs will allow you to do that. You can call the camera options UI, which brings the default settings for all the cameras, available for all the cameras. And as I mentioned earlier, if the IHV of that camera had chosen to do so, you will get a customized experience and customized settings for that camera. Or you can programmatically control these settings like brightness, contrast, hue, exposure, which are standard settings for the camera, and volume, mute, and etc. for the mic. Or you can customize your scenarios. If you have a very specific scenario that you have in mind, you could use the extensions in our media namespace and then use it with the media capture APIs to provide that experience. And this is the subject of the next section. So let's start with an example again.
So this time around, we are going to play a game. And the point that we're going to try and make with this game is that you're going to have the camera feed through the media capture APIs. So we have the feed now. And now we're going to overlay some extensions on top of them. So we have this. Let me start the game. And let me.
So we're not that good at this game. We've tried, never improved.
Step back. Actually, we're playing better than normal today.
There you go. One more for me.
But the point that we're trying to make here is that you're getting the camera feed through the media capture APIs, and then you're using your own extensions to overlay these 2 bars by detecting these light sources. And OK, I'm going to miss that again. And let's now see. I think you've seen our game playing skills, so now actually see how you can code one of these things up.
So how does this game work? Just remember, at the top of everything, what we have is a Metro-style app, so don't forget that. We have the app code written in JS, which is using the media capture APIs that we've been talking about, which is also hooked into the video tag that is showing the camera feed. Now, these all talk to each other, so my app code is using the media capture APIs, and the media capture API is hooked up to the video tag. And obviously, there's a camera that is providing the feed. Now, the purpose of the game is to recognize those 2 light sources that we use to play the game. And in order to do that, I wrote this extension and then inserted it in my pipeline so that my app code can recognize where those 2 light sources are so that I can play the game. Now, what else can you do with the extensions? You can incorporate effects in any of the streams that we have in the capture pipeline. So for example, you might want to turn the color space into grayscale. So you would write a grayscale transform, and you would insert it into one of the preview, the video capture, the image, or the audio stream. So if you apply it to the preview, only the preview will be impacted and affected, and everything else will still be what the original is. So you can independently control these streams. So another example would be an echo cancellation for audio, for example. You write that extension, edit, and we'll see how to do that pretty soon. The other thing that you could do, like we've done in the game, is you can analyze the live stream coming from the camera and do some overlays, games, and virtual reality. Or you can build a real-time communication app using these extensions. And I will refer you to a session that's going to happen tomorrow that is going into the details of how to do that. Or, as we mentioned earlier, if you prefer to extend, or if you prefer an output format that we're not supporting Inbox, you could do that using the extensions. Now, we're not really, again, going to go into the details of how to write one of these extensions, and there's a separate talk that I will be referring to you at the end. But I want to share a couple of facts about the extensions. So first of all, we believe that the best medium to write these extensions, because they process the audio and the video in a really heavy way, are native code. But the other interesting thing about these extensions is that they are packaged, and they are packaged with your app, and they are always local to your app. What this means is that you don't have to worry about your extension being used by other apps. But also, the users get the confidence that one extension that is packaged with one app is not going to interfere with the other experiences that we have. So if I remove the app, everything goes away. And even if the app is still malfunctioning with the extension, all the other experiences are not impacted from that. And how you get going with the extension, once you have one of these, you go to the app manifest and declare it in the extension section. So here I have the grayscale transform that is implemented, and I specify the path, and I give a name. I called it Microsoft.samples.grayscale effect. And now your app is ready to use it. How do we do that? Remember the object that we've created earlier in JS for media capture. One function call. The first parameter in this case is media stream type video preview, so I'm adding it only to the preview. And the second parameter is the name of the effect. And then I'm good to go. And the cool thing about this is that you can do this after you started the stream anytime. You can edit, remove it dynamically, and everything will continue to work. So let's recap what we've covered so far. Under the capture namespace, we have the camera capture UI and the media capture API. So if you're snapping a photo or recording a video, and if you're not really interested, or if you don't have a preference about how that picture is taken, how that video is recorded, you could go with the camera capture UI that comes with a built-in UX and predefined workflow. But if you want to modify this experience, you would go with the media capture APIs, and you are good to go. If you would like to, through the camera capture UI, again, you can, your users will be able to change the camera and the device settings as we talked about earlier. But if you would like to control these settings programmatically, Media Capture API is there for you. If you're doing an audio-only recording, Media Capture API is the way to go because Camera Capture UI is a video-centric UX that we have. If you would like to write a game like we've seen earlier, using the extensions, Media Capture API will help you do that. And communication scenarios are an example of that too. So hopefully, we were able to give you confidence that using Media Capture APIs are really easy. But also you have this flexibility and extensibility that are built into the design that will allow you to come up with amazing scenarios. There are a couple of sessions that I would like to refer you to. The first two are two parts that are introduction to the media namespace, your MetroStyle app, video and audio, part 1 and part 2. So obviously, if you are interested in the capture area, once you take the picture or record a video, you will display it on the screen and do other things with it. So these two sessions will be great intro to learning more about the media namespace. We said that we're not going to get into the details of how to write one of those extensions, but attending this other section, extending the media platform using input, output, and processing plugins, we'll get into the details of how to do so, and I believe it's tomorrow. Writing a communication app have a couple of things that would require your attention, and we have a dedicated session for that scenario, so I would definitely urge you to attend that one if you are interested in a communication scenario. And the last one that we have here is building a great Metro-style device app for your camera is for IHVs, and if you are interested in that, this is the session that will go into the details of how to write that customized experience and for the camera and deliver it. But as a developer, as I said before, you don't need to do anything for that to light up. A couple of further readings. The Dev Center is a great resource for you, so I urge you definitely to check that out. We have 2 white papers in this area. Playing audio and video is a great place to start to get into the real details of how to do that. And we also have a white paper for capturing photos and videos. So if you download these slides later, check them out. And with that, I'd like to urge you also to provide feedback about this session and check out our forums. And thank you very much for attending today. And if you have any questions, I have a couple of my team members here too. We'll be here, and we'll be very happy to chat with you.